Ladies and gentlemen, we just ended midday connections. We're going to be transitioning because the PMP's conference, they're having a hurricane relief conference right now. So our producer is here. We're just going to transition into that. We won't do a long discussion right now because it has started. So we will talk
To
afterwards.
hand
So let
over
us go.
to
Yeah.
on theme if we are to ensure that all persons in Jamaica are not excluded or left out, but rather inclusion. Now, in Portland, this is a direct message from the constituents. Port Antonio is not all of Portland. So in saying that, I want people to understand that there was devastation in Portland Eastern. In particular, the Fellowship Division, which is a valley area. Melissa did serious damage in that area. There are persons who, the roofs are all gone. It's similar in the Mansion Hill Division. So there are persons who are homeless as we speak. I raise this in the context that persons have an ability to try to survive. They try their best to ensure that they move on with their life. It's almost an innate ability these days. But I want the government to understand that when persons are building back their houses and just taking up zincs that probably don't even belong to them to ensure that they have a roof over their heads, they can't wait. It's impossible to wait until somebody comes to say, okay, I see the damage. We will process your claim and then give you some support. That support is in the sum of $50,000, $100,000, $400,000 if it's complete destruction. And if you are a Jamaican and you want to be a homeowner, you know the reality that $400,000 will never be able to put you back in the position that would make you a homeowner or in livable, humane conditions. So when I speak of equity of distribution, although Melissa didn't hit at ground zero in the east, we are an island surrounded by water, especially if you're a coastline parish like Portland, Eastern, St. Thomas, Portland, Eastern and Western, all of Portland and all of St. Thomas. But if we speak of the constituency, I'm not going to sit here or stand here and say that MPs who are not in those ground zeros aren't affected, because we all are. As it is right now, we are a country where resources are scarce. The opposition leader would have reached out to the Prime Minister and there was an allocation. What does that allocation look like? I can only tell you from the lived experience that from a human rights perspective, if you get $1.5 million, that amounts to no more than 600 care packages and probably 22 tarpaulins. Why am I speaking on this? Because it would mean that if you are a member of parliament and you had persons voting for you in the amount of 8,000 plus persons, these are persons that have been affected, and whether you know it or not, it's not just the elderly, it's not just women and children. They're able-bodied persons who live day to day. And I'm just using that as a starting point because I'm saying this, it is not the time to be political. You can't see color, you can't see political parties. You have to understand that on a human rights plane, the needs of everybody will be important. And we might not know it now, but what Friday will look like in terms of how you source your meal, it won't be a laughable situation. We must look at what is happening across Jamaica. And while we start to think of how resources are distributed, I will yield to my senior, Natalie, Comrade Natalie, to speak about distribution and all of that. But what I will say, though, is what is of great importance is that we are to go to the bare minimum and think of the human rights realities. There are persons who are ill, who their medication has to be on the refrigerator. They need energy and they don't have it. So 7 days have passed thereabout, and that medical access is not a reality, because I've heard Portland is not a priority. I've heard that, and that is a sad reality, because I have the evidence in terms of looking at the photos, the pictures, being on the ground in Mansion Hill, being on the ground in Reach, being in Fellowship. I'm just naming a few: Bellevue, Comfort Castle, Millbank, where there are just total devastation, disaster. Persons who are from the disabilities community, the disabled community, and they don't have a home. The shelters aren't in operation. It's not a continuation of it. Persons have to go far places. So I need people to understand that. And when it comes to the distribution, yes, ODPEM is there. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security and care packages are going out. But I want you to quantify the reality. Is that if you have 300 care packages, that can just go to even one community. And it will, while I stand as a member of Parliament of Portland Eastern, and I can do so much and no more with the resources. And I understand when it comes to the concept of support Jamaica and funneling all resources through the government. That is an impossibility and not realistic. So much so that I have gone on by taking guidance from the diaspora to start a GoFundMe. And it is the diaspora from Portland and persons who are concerned that have raised funds for me to be able to do things that the government is not yet prepared to do. I will just say, think of every single person, because that is my duty as a humanitarian, as a human rights attorney, and even as a spokesperson for human rights and youth. And I will make a compassionate call to all members of Parliament that we are to work collectively through our offices. I will reach out to anybody that's close by, because I get the calls that my family is stuck in Westmoreland and I haven't heard of them. Same for St. Elizabeth, because we're all Jamaicans and we all have relatives across the island. And we are to think on those things. And when we think of equity of distribution, let nobody be excluded. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Salika Jess, Member of Parliament for Northeastern St. Elizabeth. There has been quite a lot of attention being paid to Southern St. Elizabeth. Unfortunately, Northeastern St. Elizabeth has been left devastated by the passage of Hurricane Melissa. It has been almost 1 week since the hurricane, and regrettably, not one government official has actually visited Northeastern St. Elizabeth. Now, this is a constituency that has been ravaged. We're talking about entire communities that have lost their roofs, lost their homes. Communities such as Thornton, Windsor, in the Silo area, Bagdale Mountain. There are entire communities where absolutely no home was spared. When you look at the devastation, we're not just talking about it from the home perspective. We're talking about the road network. Our roads, especially in the interior of the constituency, have been substantially and completely damaged. We have roads which have burst open, leaving craters almost 20 feet deep. I have communities which have been marooned. There's no way for them to enter or exit. I have residents reaching out to me to say that they can't get out of their community, and they have elderly persons who need to see a doctor. and they can't leave. I went in search of a community yesterday known as Maribo, and I spent over 2 hours driving around and could not find the community of Maribo. I say all of this to say to you that the devastation has been extremely great in northeastern St. Elizabeth. And as a member of parliament, I have reached out to the government for assistance in getting persons who are marooned access so that they can actually leave their communities or enter elsewhere. I have been told by the government that as a member of parliament, I cannot engage with private contractors to have their roads cleared or to have their roads put in a place where they can leave or enter their community. And so I have been faced with a difficult decision where I have to choose whether I obey the rules as they currently stand, in which case it means that residents will be left stranded and trapped and unable to leave, even in cases of emergency. People will not be able to have access to food, water, or I make the other difficult decision, which is to go against the government's dictates and actually engage contractors to put together the roadway as best as possible so that access can be had. I have chosen the latter. And so I hope and I pray that the government will actually make some allocation available to members of parliament in the affected constituencies. I am calling on the government to include the members of parliament, to engage with us, and very importantly, to empower us to help the people who are depending on us because they don't have the numbers for the government ministers, they have the numbers for their members of parliament, and they're reaching out and begging and crying out for help. I'm asking that the government consider making an allocation, particularly to the members of parliament in the deeply affected communities, constituencies, where it's not just a case of clearing the roadways, it's a case of actually engaging professionals who can fill the gaps and the craters and make a way where there is no way, even if it is just on a temporary basis. The hurricane has wreaked substantial damage, and it's important that there is equitable distribution of resources. I have received only 150 care packages from the government for distribution. That doesn't even last one lane in one community, because everybody has been affected in most communities. So it's not just the elderly or the disabled, it is everybody who is affected. And so I'm calling on the government to engage, and to engage as a matter of urgency so that the relief that is necessary can be had. Thank you.
So I will speak of the experience from St. James, and after which Dr. Dawes will speak about the health crisis and Natalie about coordination. When last I checked, we lost 5 lives in South St. James to Hurricane Melissa. And I speak not only as a person reading or hearing about what's happening in South St. James and in Jamaica, but as someone from South St. James who was on the ground from Wednesday. I left the constituency last night this morning at 2 a.m. to be a part of this press conference, because as the chief spokesperson for the people of South St. James, I think it is my duty to get out of the largest constituency in St. James of the parish. The other 4 constituencies share the other 48%. We're vast. We meet Westmoreland, Hanover, Trelawney, and 2 other constituencies, West Central and East Central St. James. To enter the constituency, traditionally we use 5 different routes. We have only been able to clear 1 route into South St. James, and that is through Long Hill to Anchovy Mafuta, Barnet Bush to take you up to Garland's Moko Maroon Town, or you go right at Fern, Plum, Cambridge, to go as far as you can until you're stopped by downed power lines, poles, landslides, and rivers. Yes, the Seven Rivers has taken the road we have in the Bickerstead Copperwood plantation area. We still have communities that are marooned and do not have access to food. And when I say no access to food, what I mean is that when we advised them to go to a shelter like the shelter at Cambridge High School, we told them that we were advised by the government that food would come after the storm, which was a mistake because some went in from as early as Monday of last week and they have not had food up till now. We were able to send a little boat across, a little blow-up boat across the roadway to get to some, and they got food for one night because the boat couldn't hold much more. We have seen the helicopters flying in the sky above us in South St. James, but most times they're going to St. Elizabeth or Westmoreland. They're going to the sexy places where disaster grief is big profit and big public relations opportunities. In South St. James, we're farmers, we're humble people, we don't like to beg, but I'm appealing on our behalf because we need urgently food for our people who are marooned in places like Catadupa, in Jungle, in Awful Gully. We're calling for help for people in Retrieve, where we join Eastern Westmoreland, because they were only able to get their dead out of the community just 2 days ago. We're asking to have the health authorities come in because the cows are still floating, the goats are still floating in the waters that have taken and submerged communities like Spring Bottom in the Roehampton area. 2-story high houses are still underwater. We have a coaster bus, you know the height of that, that is still submerged along the roadway to Cambridge. Based on my estimation, over 70% of the housing stock, the business, the livestock, the agriculture has been lost in South St. James. And when I go to the community, I don't know what to say to them because they ask me, MP, you see my house, it was right here, it's no longer here, what do I do? I tell them that I have not yet gotten a word from the government, right? To tell us how we're going to help them to rebuild and to get their lives back together, right? So, we're not asking because we are greedy. We're asking because the collaboration and the coordination on the ground is not reaching our people in South St. James. When I'm able to bring 2 bags of food like I did last night to the school at Malden High, they were not able to make breakfast this morning because it could only last 1 day. I'm asking you to help us to airlift some food into the communities, to get the sick people out of the homes and into the hospital. We have some pregnant mothers. We were able to get to the hospital at Cornwall Regional just yesterday. Her baby was not moving anymore in her belly, right? We have an urgent need in South St. James, and I know everybody is trying. All I'm asking is don't forget South St. James in all of this, because we are proud farmers and we want to get back with our lives, but we need the donations to come to us too. We don't want to stay left behind because we're deep rural. You're going to hear now from Dr. Dawes about the health conditions because the mosquitoes are killing us already in South St. James, and then MP Natalie Nita.
Good afternoon. Dr. Alfred Dawes, Member of Parliament for South East St. Catherine and Shadow Minister of Health and Wellness. When Hurricane Melissa hit Jamaica, it was a catastrophic natural disaster. If we continue on this path where the government maintains hegemony over the distribution of aid and access to the most vulnerable communities by volunteers, if they try to do it alone, we will have an even more catastrophic man-made disaster. We are seeing a humanitarian crisis unfold before our very eyes. Ground Zero was in eastern Westmoreland, a parish that I'm very familiar with, and the devastation that is seen there and in St. Elizabeth and in other parts of Westmoreland, St. James, Hanover, and St. Elizabeth overall. It is mind-boggling. No pictures or videos can do justice for what you see when you're driving miles and miles. The smells of rotting carcasses, the flooded roads. Healthcare has been teetering on the border of collapse because of the situation at Cornwall Regional Hospital and the overcrowding in the feeder hospitals. What we're seeing now is an exacerbation of that situation, where Lucy Hospital, Noel Holmes Hospital, is pretty much non-functional. Up to over the weekend, there was no way of contacting hospitals for referrals. They would just get critical patients as fast as possible loaded into an ambulance and send them off with a hope and a prayer and what limited staff they can afford to send on that journey. The Black River Hospital has been devastated, and Salvamar Hospital, they have major infrastructural challenges, but even more so, the staff, they are also homeless. They are also living out of cars. Many of them are hungry, and many persons cannot provide health care because they do not have the resources. We appreciate that the government has now opened the NHS stores and has started to send out supplies. But we must not be fooled into thinking that a field hospital being set up means that it is an appropriate response to a catastrophe of this nature. A hospital is secondary care. There is no primary care in any of the affected parishes at the moment. This means that the clinics are closed. It means that diabetics, hypertensives, persons with heart disease, kidney disease, those who have a diabetic foot ulcer, they are not being treated. And it means that they are going to have exacerbations and complications of their diseases. And already we are seeing where those who have access to the hospitals have been flooding the hospitals. We will see in the ensuing weeks an increase in mosquito-borne diseases. Within 6 weeks, we can expect outbreaks of dengue and whatever else is lying around, waiting for these appropriate conditions to manifest. The public health inspectors, they need to be empowered immediately so that they can start their food safety checks. They can inspect for water sources that they are potable, they have not been contaminated. Basic materials such as food, temperature, thermometers must be provided. We must increase vector control activities immediately, and this is not just fogging, but source control. Otherwise, we're going to see a massive outbreak of dengue. The gastroenteritis from the consumption of spoiled foods, already we hear reports of persons eating rotted or rotting carcasses. And the unavailability of potable water will lead to diarrhea, dehydration, and in the most vulnerable, the elderly, the children, and the pregnant mothers, it may mean death. We do not know what the true death toll is from the hurricane, but what we can expect is that if these public health issues are not addressed immediately, we're going to see far more deaths occurring in the aftermath of the storm, in this man-made disaster, than what occurred during the passage of Melissa, the natural disaster we're here to speak about. We must head this off. We must resource the hospitals. We must send relief staff to the hospitals. We must find a way to get health care in the communities that have been cut off up to recently and are still cut off.
And the way we may fill that gap is by inviting and coordinating the hordes of volunteers who want to go in and give some health care. Medical missions have played a very important part in the provision of health care in far-flung communities. And it is this provision of primary care, the screening, the early intervention with the medications, the dressing of wounds, that have kept many persons from seeking health care at overcrowded hospitals. If we have dilapidated structures, if we have damaged structures that are understaffed, it is reasonable to ask that volunteers be coordinated to go and man these health centers in the rural communities through the different medical missions. So these things must be coordinated immediately. Organizations that want to donate food and especially water, they must be accommodated. I've had complaints and I have tested the system myself, and I don't want to be overly critical. That is not the tone I want to project here today. But those who want to give are being frustrated by the process, and what is happening is that they are trying to make the journey themselves. The roads are blocked up. On our mission on Saturday, one of the buses broke down and the relief bus took about 4 or 5 hours to make what would normally be a 2-hour trip to relieve the staff that were left on that bus. The roads have been congested, and it is frustrating persons who want to donate, but we must set up a proper distribution network so that those who are impacted the most, irrespective of their antecedents, they get the resources that they need. It means not simply focusing on one particular area, but accepting that this hurricane tore through the entire Western Jamaica, and we must not ignore the plight of those who are in one parish. If the information that came to us through the media came late, and our attentions were already fixed on a particular area that was brought to the forefront of our consciousness. So in conclusion, my appeal is that we find a way to facilitate the donors of foodstuff, sundries, health supplies, and importantly, find a way to channel those who want to give service in the medical field so that we can organize relief missions to go to the communities that Nikisha spoke about, that Zulika spoke about, and others are bringing to the forefront of the nation's consciousness. We have to get medical missions into those communities, and we have to, they are coming with their resources, but there needs to be a greater collaboration between those entities and the government and the state agencies, as well as the opposition, because we have made ourselves available to work alongside the government. So again, we do not want to convert a natural disaster into a man-made disaster because of partisanship, but we should focus more on partnership. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. After a disaster like Hurricane Melissa, the most powerful tool we have is unity. When we are united in purpose, government and opposition, national and local leaders, NGOs, community groups, and private citizens, recovery happens faster. Resources are used better, and help reaches everyone who needs it. Disasters do not discriminate by constituency, status, or color. And so our response must also rise above any division. This is a time for collective responsibility. We all have a role to play. Government agencies, first responders, the private sector, faith-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, and our community leaders all have a part in building back stronger. When we bring our strengths together, we save lives. reduce harm, and make every recovery effort stronger and fairer. But unity must be matched with preparedness. We have to learn from what went wrong. Our shelters must be ready and suitable to receive people before the storm, with basic supplies, pre-positioned, and shelter managers available, trained, and ready to serve. In some instances across Jamaica, the list of shelter managers included persons who were deceased, had migrated, or were simply unwilling to serve. These are gaps we must correct. We must draw on the best practices of experts so that our communities become more resilient to future hazards. That means ensuring all stakeholders have a seat at the table. It means and includes government at both levels, our councillors, our mayors, our justices of the peace, and all who serve as stakeholders at the local level must have a seat at the table, including our opposition, who has not been included in any of these meaningful disaster preparedness or operational meetings. It is important at this time that all the logistics, all the utility companies, the private sector, the insurers, the small businesses, the donors and international agencies, that there must be a coordinated effort to make our recovery stronger. The media and communication platforms, academic institutions and technical experts, most importantly, our vulnerable groups and survivors themselves must have a seat at the table. When we work together, the benefits are clear. Lives are saved and harm is reduced through coordinated action. Needs are prioritized and duplication avoided so that no community is left behind. Resources are used efficiently by pooling transport, storage, and funding. Expertise is shared, combining technical skills and local knowledge. Vulnerable groups are protected, including children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. Public safety and essential services are restored faster, helping communities to recover. And most importantly, trust is built because people can see fairness and transparency. If we are to build true resilience, collaboration cannot happen only in crisis. It must be part of how we operate every day. That means maintaining open communication channels, sharing information, coordinating resources, and planning together before the next disaster strikes. The opposition stands ready to work with the government to strengthen our systems and ensure that every Jamaican, wherever they live, can depend on fair and transparent support in times of need. Let us commit to building partnerships and putting people first. When we work together, Jamaica is stronger, and we lead with compassion, coordination, and accountability. Recovery is not just possible, it is inevitable. Thank you.
So we'll now open the floor for questions. If you have questions, please state the name of your media house. If you're online, you can indicate by using the raised hand icon. If you're in the room, please indicate, we'll get the microphone to you and we'll take your question.
Greetings. This question is for Mr. Buchanan and Ms. Jess. All right, so I heard you speak about the relief supplies not being enough. Do you think that there is an act of sabotage at play there, any at all, in both constituencies or anywhere else, as a matter of fact?
All right, so I'll answer for
Oh, sorry, I'm Jason Cross from the Jamaica Observer.
All right, thank you, Jason. I'll speak from Portland Eastern. I don't buy into conspiracy theories. If, and I have no facts that there's an act or acts of sabotage. I would say if that were the case, that would be very idiotic. But we're living a real experience, and at this time, even before the hurricane, there were persons that were suffering from food insecurity. That is the Jamaican reality. I'm just simply here to say, listen, tomorrow we are go hungry. Let me put it that way. And next week we are go hungrier. And a hungry man is an angry man. So if somebody is sabotaging, woe be unto you. Thank you.
In the case of northeastern St. Elizabeth, I suspect it is perhaps a situation where the government has their hands entirely full. I think it's quite an overwhelming situation having to deal with an unprecedented act of nature. We've never had a Category 5 hurricane, and so I would hope that no one in their right mind and operating with good heart could deliberately wish to punish residents by withholding food and other basic necessities. So I hope it is an oversight and not that which you have suggested.
Good afternoon, Camila Williams with Television Jamaica and Radio Jamaica 94 FM. I have two questions, and this goes out to, because this is about MPs, anyone I think can take this. So the first question is, how much money would MPs need to adequately respond to the need? And this is each. How much would each MP?
I understand what you mean. I hesitate to attempt to answer that with a specific number. The scale of the damage is unprecedented. It's not yet quantified. And it differs from constituency to constituency. So it doesn't permit of one answer per constituency. There is, however, a threshold that I think MPs could handle adequately, and which could make a huge difference because of their connections on the ground. I think it's important for Jamaica to understand that members of parliament on both sides, councillors on both sides, have networks into communities in every nook and cranny of the country. There are very large national organizations that are not centralized in the capital like government is. They're diffused and they're across the island. And the information can flow. Once there's connectivity, the information as to where the needs are flows very quickly and easily, right through up to me, if necessary, as leader, or the Prime Minister, I'm sure. So empowering members of parliament, as long as there are accountability measures in place to ensure that the money or the goods are accounted for adequately and properly, using that structure and the councillors is a very effective way of getting to people in need. We will partner with local organizations who we have relationships with on a day-to-day basis, churches in communities and other organizations on the ground to cover the ground where needed. Now, in terms of the amount of money, what has been proposed, we got 1.5 million allocated on the Saturday before the Melissa hit. I had reached out to the Prime Minister that morning about it. We had a meeting at OPM about it. We discussed it, and he said he was authorizing $1.5 million as a kind of pre-Melissa effort to prepare us to have something. And that was useful, and we did our best to prepare ourselves with that. Tarpaulins, water, foodstuffs. But of course, the scale of this is so much greater than any of us anticipated, really, because we haven't experienced it before. That really needs to be replenished. I've been in dialogue with him. I believe he's going to announce another 1.5. I think Cabinet was supposed to, for relief purposes, and they're looking at a $3 million for issues to do with cleaning up and the like. I've said to him that the bureaucracy, the administrative requirements as to how you spend that $3 million, and please, public, bear in mind, we don't get this in cash. These are allocations that allow us to trust, as it were, the services, the food stuff from suppliers, and then we send invoices to a state agency who pay them directly. We don't handle any cash. Now, 3 million, when you're faced with thousands of people who are homeless, is not an answer to that question. And I'm not sure that for the major, well, I should put it this way, for the major response to the housing and shelter needs of the people, and even the food and water needs, the MPs cannot be the sole solution. We don't have the capacity to deal with housing needs on that scale. That needs a national reconstruction program with a proper governance structure attached to it and well-resourced. But certainly, if you were to give MPs even $50 million each, that would be something we would be able to make that money count for the people and the people who need it. I'm just throwing that out as a number, but it's many, many multiples of the figures that are being discussed now. And, you know, one has to bear in mind the resource capacity of the country as well. And the government is in the best position to assess what that is. So, you know, we're getting, hopefully, the CRIF payments which have been committed, and we're expecting that the CAT bonds will also make a payment. The government hasn't yet confirmed that, though the media has been suggesting that it's a done deal. I hope it is, but we're waiting on the confirmation. And there are other funds that were in the budget and so on for national disasters. But bear in mind at the same time that there's been a calamitous hit to the economy. So going forward, we're going to see a contraction of the economy. We're going to see a contraction of government revenues. We're going to see a contraction of foreign exchange flows, potentially. On a net basis, with those flows coming in from insurance and so on, it's difficult to know where we stand. But I'm just saying the government has to assess that situation. But this is an unprecedented disaster. And I would be modification of the measurement of GDP. We were supposed to get to the target of 60% of GDP this year, even though the law is early. So there is some fiscal space in the...
All right, so this is just one case. However, I would figure perhaps this might be a situation elsewhere. My question is, have you been seeing the issue of political partisanship affecting the distribution of relief? And I say this based on the conversation I had with a resident who said that a care package truck came to the community twice.
Is going on. I got a report yesterday that 8 people were dead in a community in St. Elizabeth, and they were planning to do a mass burial because they're cut off. I can give you the name of the community. It's in my phone. I have reported it, which is not practical because he can't handle every single report. There is no proper command structure in place. They've put in the same old system that has applied under their leadership in the past. And I'm saying, listen, this is bigger than all that. This is much, much bigger than all that. And we need to have something that the people can have confidence in, a broad-based system with leaders from the private sector, leaders from the churches, leaders from the NGO sector. The opposition should be at the table. Roughly half of the country that are interested in the system of democracy voted for the opposition. And, so to exclude us is not wise, because you're going to deprive yourselves of vital information, especially given that some of the most badly hit areas are areas where our representatives have been voted into office. So the structure needs to be put in place that's broad-based. There needs to be proper.
Thank you.
There's a question here online from Portland Spice TV. Are there members of the parliamentary opposition on the committees put together by the government to deal with the aftermath of the hurricane? The leader of the opposition addressed that, I believe. No, I was advised that I need to speak with someone as the elected representative to beg them to appeal on my behalf. So no, we're not at the table. We're not on these committees. We also have online Siobhan Campbell. His hand is raised. Siobhan, please unmute and go ahead with your question. Then we'll take another question from the room. Go ahead, Siobhan. All right. While we get Siobhan ready, we'll take another question from the room.
Good afternoon, everybody. Zara Burton with 18 Degrees North. Asking about your CDF funds. 20 million, I believe, is the allocation each MP. Have those been used up in your constituencies? Can they be deployed ASAP? I'm just wondering, just generally, I have another question after that, but just generally speaking, can you get that accelerated in any way, or are there certain rules holding you back?
Okay, so for members of parliament who have returned, you might or might not still have CDF funds remaining. And if you do, it may or may not be accessible based on what it was programmed to do. So there are specific procedures to follow to be able to get funds to do mitigation works. And if you did not have a mitigation fund set aside, then you wouldn't have access to any of it. In the case of new members of parliament, the outgoing member of parliament might have utilized all of those funds already, and the new member of parliament won't have access to a new allocation until March of next year, after the new budget period has ended. You also would have to wait until, if you do have the funds and you need to, I believe that the opposition leader did include in his presentation a call for the reduction in the bureaucracy across the board.
But not for CDF.
I would just add to that, just for public information, how the CDF works is a $20 million annual allocation per constituency. 1.5 of that is for admin support. So it's really 18.5 that's available to be spent. There are certain heads of activities that you must allocate that 18.5 across. Welfare, social housing, economic enablement, sports, education, etc. And then you have to design programs which have to go to a parliamentary committee and get approved for each of those. So the whole 8.5 million has to be approved by Parliament before you can get access to it. Now, there has been no decision to modify those rules. What has happened, that 1.5 million that was allocated on Saturday was an addition to the CDF. So it is being spent through the CDF processes, and the same agencies that normally would apply. Will be receive the invoices from the suppliers of the food, water, tarpaulins, etc.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking just a little bit about what we've been hearing so far. I see some of the comments. I want to highlight though. So far, I have to highlight one, the desperate cry from Nikisha Berchel, MP. She cried because she doesn't feel the support from the government. Lives were claimed in her constituency. Yes, and there is an urgent need. MP Dr. Dawes and Shadow Minister for Health told us clearly that the longer we take to address these issues, it will move from just us trying to recover from a natural disaster to us creating a man-made one, because they are decaying carcasses. Yes, in some of the areas, we are anticipating the breakout of dengue and probably other more serious diseases if we don't act quickly. Somebody said it recently, and here Dr. Dawes said it in the conference.
I wanted to know if, as of right now, whether you have heard of any cases of these mosquito-borne illnesses as of yet, and also, I know you mentioned, I think, fogging. I think you may have used a different term, but vector control. What other measures, given the fact that you said that they're coming, what other measures would be necessary to mitigate against that at this point? Because as I think somebody else mentioned, there's some carcasses in different streams, water bodies.
Everywhere. There's water ponding all over those parishes, and there's dead animals all over the place, rocks.
So the question is that posing a health risk as well? And so if you could just address some of the things that, in addition to what you said about vector control, what else from a medical perspective would be necessary to mitigate against those diseases, and also dealing with these dead carcasses and even dead human bodies too that are not claimed?
So what we are faced with now is a public health crisis in the making. We speak about the ponding of water, these water reservoirs that are caused by the receding floods. We do have a very fertile breeding spot for mosquitoes. So we are going to see a massive increase in the mosquito population. And we know that Aedes aegypti, which transmits dengue as well as chickpea and Zika, that is native to all of the parishes that have been affected. With the Haitian migrations that we are seeing coming in, we are at risk for malaria. We must consider that the rotting carcasses of animals can contaminate underground water supplies. If we have a contamination of underground water supplies, we're going to have a significant increase in the number of cases of gastroenteritis. We saw after the Haitian earthquake, there was a rise in cholera that was brought in by relief workers. We don't know if relief workers are coming in with other diseases as well. And we have an incubator now of persons who are living outdoors. They're prone to respiratory conditions, and they are prone to gastroenteritis, as well as mosquito-borne diseases. So we have to address the breeding sites. That's going to be very difficult to do because of the large areas that have significant water pooling. Fogging can take place, but it is only a temporary measure. We have to get, as much as possible, mosquito repellents, mosquito nets out there for persons who are exposed to the elements. And we have to be testing water sources very regularly. We have to get the chlorine tablets, the water treatment solutions, as well as tablets, and water. We need to get water. And with all of this, persons in the affected areas, they have to be advised of what to look out for, how to practice proper hygiene, how to, unfortunately, we have to say, isolate bodies so that they don't come in contact with decomposing bodies and they are exposed to infections. So unless we fix primary care immediately, we're going to see this disaster that is man-made if we don't do it right. And I choose that term carefully because if we can prevent a lot of this, if we get the teams out there, if we have a structured response, we get the public education out there, if we evacuate people out of those areas where they're at risk, and we get the potable water and proper food, the hygiene tools that are necessary to avoid these outbreaks, we can do it. There is hope, but we just have to do this the right way.
I just wanted to add one postscript to my answer to your question about the CDF. The CDF, as normally allocated, is not disaster relief funding. It is to help in the constituencies to make life a little easier for people who need help. With the scale of what we're facing, the existing allocation of 20 million cannot be even considered as a response. There needs to be special funding using the resources that have been made available from Jamaica's disaster relief financing structure and any additional resources that we are able to garner from the goodwill that Jamaica enjoys, which is significant across the world, to empower those entities, those people who are in a position to reach those who need help. And it can't be the CDF that's the answer to that.
And speaking as an incoming MP, we didn't even start out with $20 million. So it's whatever has been left behind by the MPs who preceded us that we have to make do with for the rest of the year. Let's hear now from Siobhan Campbell from Nationwide. Please unmute and go ahead, Siobhan.
I'm not seeing Siobhan on mute. Can I take the stage?
Yes, please go ahead. Say your name and the media house you represent.
My name is Colin Bell, Portland Spice TV. I have about 3 questions. I heard MP Jess said that she went in search of a community yesterday. Could you expound a little bit more on that for us, because you say you did not find that community? I also want to ask, does the People's National Party as a party can source assistance for the people who needs help? And of course, Comrade Natalie, do you think this is a stage where the Minister of Local Government needs to use that equalization fund to provide more funding for councillors? Thank you.
Jess first. So we'll go to Jess.
So when I mentioned that I could not find the community, I'm referring to the community of Mariba. And we started out by checking the access points to the community. So we went to one location where that is the road that should lead to Mariba, and there was no road. There were just crumbling asphalt. There was just debris of asphalt. We went to another location that should have been the other way to enter the community, and it was just totally impassable. Everything, the road was broken away, split totally. We were told that we may be able to find the community by going through a dirt road in the hills. And so we went into the hills trying to find the dirt road, took several dirt roads and could not find the community until further, about 2.5 hours later, we found a house, and they told us that if we continued to walk, because we couldn't drive, so if we continued to walk, we would find another house further down, and they would have to call out the community to come to us, because the community, they are trapped inside of the community. They are trapped in the community. So that is the reality on the ground. People are marooned, and they can't get in and they can't get out. Thankfully, I've made arrangements for some heavy-duty equipment to be brought into the area today to try and get them access. So hopefully I'll have better news later tonight.
Yes, so I believe that the local government system has an SGR, which is a facility that is provided to assist with emergencies. After dialogue with the local government minister, they were allowed, councillors and mayors are allowed to utilize some of what is available, if any, in their SGRs, which is their emergency funds. But I believe it's not enough. I believe the equalization fund can be utilized. So I'm answering you, yes, it can be utilized to empower our local government representatives, as they are the first port of call. Everybody goes to the councillor first. Most times because they are living in the same communities with them. And so they should also be empowered, whether through the equalization fund or a special disbursement through the national budget at this time, to be able to assist with what is happening on our parochial roads. So while we are engaged in clearing our main roads so that major vehicular traffic can go through, our community roads need to be cleared urgently, because they can't get into major communities to be able to purchase food and to be able to have access to medication. And so there has to be a great emphasis at this time to empower our local government representatives to be able to respond quickly.
I think the second question was to do with the People's National Party and fundraising and so on for disaster relief. So in the last week or so, we have developed a capacity as a party to respond to the needs that we're seeing on the ground, and that our elected representatives at the local government, the councillors, and the national level, the MPs, are communicating to us. So we have the capacity to receive financial contributions locally and from overseas, and we have relationships that we've developed with established charities that would import and make the relief supplies available for distribution. And we're putting in a structure for this with an accountability element, because we want to account for every dollar received and every item received and distributed. And the treasurer of the party is helping to design this. She has been managing this process for the past week, and we're bringing on additional human resources to give support so we can have a robust mechanism for anyone who wants to assist through our portal. Now, I gather that there's some thought among the government that they want to stop anything coming in other than through ODPEM and the state system. I would caution against that. I think that people have their preferences, donors have their preferences. Let us not deny any Jamaican in need the opportunity to receive a benefit which a donor would be inclined to provide for them through a particular channel, by saying everything has to go through the state channel. I think there should be coordination. I think we should collaborate and share information, as long as that is on an open basis and there's genuine sharing of information. But I don't think we should restrict any this whole relief to one channel, because that is going to result in people not benefiting as much or at all from what is available. And so I encourage the government to rethink that, if that is indeed the way they've been thinking.
Okay, let's try once more for Siobhan. Siobhan, please unmute and we'll take your question.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hearing you well.
Good afternoon. Siobhan Campbell, Nationwide News. I have just two quick questions to the opposition leader. You said that the matter at hand is not one of politics. And while we understand the suggestions you've put forward, is it wise then to have a press conference of this nature, which essentially raises the matter to a political discussion? And second, there is a criticism that is going around suggesting that the opposition is attempting to govern from the opposition benches. How do you address that?
Well, the opposition cannot govern the country. We don't have any authority or status in governing the country. The civil service respond to cabinet. We are not part of that system. And all state agencies ultimately respond to ministers who are in cabinet. So that point is really nonsense. But the first issue about whether this is political, we are sharing information with the public. We have information which is important. We have ideas which we feel are important. And we feel that, that there's nothing, as long as we're approaching this in a spirit of national unity and to help Jamaica come out of a desperate situation, we ought to and should share our ideas with the public. And that's what we're doing. We haven't today attempted to criticize the government. We have made suggestions. We've pointed out where there are weaknesses, but we're not seeking to criticize the government at all at this point in time, because this is not the time for that. This is a time for us as an opposition to work with the government if they will let us. And if they won't let us, we will still work in the interest of the nation as a whole, Labour Right and PNP, because we are all Jamaicans and we want Jamaica to recover from this. If we don't pull together, our corner dark. So let us pull together as one people and use the best resources available to us, the best thinking available to us, the best organizational skills available to us, with a common heart for the interests of the people who are suffering right now.
And there's no better note to end this press conference. If you go home tonight and you can lay your head on a dry pillow, if when you look up you don't see stars, you are blessed. We in the West, we need your help. Pray for us. Pray for Jamaica, land we love. Have a good evening.
I stand in solidarity with MP Nikisha Burchell. What a note to end on. I am happy that we ended on that note with Mr. Golding. And I will repeat verbatim what he said. Now is not the time for that. Now is not the time for that. Just a quick breakdown of what I saw at the conference today. It's very clear that the intention of the conference was to have the MPs from the affected areas to voice their own experience on the ground as to what they are seeing among their constituents. And we heard several things. We heard roads being impassable, potential outbreaks of diseases, things of that nature. We heard the laziness somewhat from the government. We heard a lack of intention to partner with the opposition. I can recall Dr. Dawes saying, if we continue to allow the government to have hegemony over the resources, then we're going to be in problems. And I've been saying this from last week. That committee that was created as the immediate core team to organize the relief efforts on behalf of the government, the opposition or members of the opposition should have been a part of that. Based on what I'm understanding, members of the opposition are not allowed to sit in those rooms. Yes, we saw recently where Mr. Golding met with the Prime Minister at what, Royal Vale, and then the other time at the office of the Prime Minister. Those are not enough. And for persons who are saying that Mark Golding is playing politics, you're being disingenuous. You are being disingenuous. The people, MP Zulika has said that in her area, based on the policies, they said that MPs cannot enter into private contracts. Fine. Let's say that is the rule. Don't you think that there must be some leeway, some discretion to be given now, seeing that we are facing crises, seeing that there is an emergency on the land, especially when you're not going to necessarily want to partner with the opposition, because it's all about optics now, based on what I'm seeing here. It's all about who can at the end of the day can say, I did more than you. So by the next time, the next election, if the Lord should spare our lives and he should delay his return, the JLP can say, when Hurricane Melissa did come, we do this and we do that. Where was the opposition? Again, as Mr. Golding said, now is not the time for that. Now is not the time for that. I don't want to get in some of the things that I know Mr. Stevens will be talking about tonight. But while we're on the topic, there must be unity, because this conference clearly tells us that there is no unity between the government and the opposition regarding the relief efforts. And that creates more harm than good. That creates more harm than good. So even before the PNP conference, I heard a person saying that Mark Golding is the one playing politics. Or you're supposed to be playing politics when you're coming and to the public to ask for help, to be transparent, to tell people. Remember recently, ladies and gentlemen, it was said that the government, the Prime Minister, didn't allow the opposition leader to have access to a chopper, a helicopter. He had to secure that privately. Today on Midday Connections, somebody called in and said, listen, if you don't want to work with Mark Golding and the opposition, give them access to the resources so that they can do their jobs. So that they can do their jobs. Simple as that. It's not about PNP. It's not about JLP. It's not about any of those things. If we continue to play politics and to politicize Hurricane Melissa, woe be unto us. Because while we are in Parliament playing politics, while we are trying to discourage and hold up the process of rebuilding Jamaica, our brothers and sisters in Westmoreland are perishing right before our very eyes. People in St. Elizabeth, people in St. James, people in Hanover, Mobay, while we are there playing politics and bickering amongst ourselves. People are dying. Dr. Dawes said and health is a very serious thing. The more we delay, the more time pass, and we are unable to meet the needs of the people. It's the more we continue to play, it's the more we continue to toy with people's lives. I cannot imagine that in a time like this, MPs from the affected areas had to keep a press conference to communicate just how short-handed the government has been as it relates to sharing resources with them so that they can help their constituency. No, it's not the time for that. No is not the time for that. Let us be very careful as to what we're doing as Jamaican people. We cannot change what Melissa did. We can't reverse that. It come and it gone. What we have now is post-Hurricane Melissa, which means that anything that we're doing now must be done in solidarity with all stakeholders. And I'll say this, a lot of persons use the word government, and we know based on definition and accuracy, the government speaks to the ruling party. But I've always tried to extend that definition. And in Pulsar, they taught us at UE, you can extend the definition of terms to wholesomely represent the ideology that you're trying to bring across. Based on the term government, which speaks to the governance of a country or state, you must include the opposition. From where I sit, and even from a philosophical standpoint, governance is not limited to just the party that rules. Governance spreads across to even the opposition. Governance spread to across to the NGOs. Governance spread towards across to the civilians. Governance spreads right across to the world of academia. Governance spread right across to the different private sectors and public sector. Governance is never and will never just be the ruling party. So why is it, based on the PNP's conference, it seems as if the ruling party is trying to be the only ones at the forefront? The more hands we get on deck is the quicker we can bounce. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that Jamaica will bounce back, because we are a resilient people. But it's not just bouncing back, but the timeliness of it is crucial. When we went to Westmoreland yesterday and we saw how dire the situation is, time is of the essence. The PNP had to come and keep a conference to tell people that no, but they're not getting any help. They should have been given all the resources that they need, and right now, no conference shouldn't even keep. Because right now, the MPs should be in the affected areas with all the resources that they need to help the people them down there. Now is not the time for this. Now is not the time for this. In a time like this, let us put politics aside. I abhor politicking. in a time where our brothers and sisters are rotting before our very eyes. You see pictures and videos on social media. When you're there on the ground, is a total different thing. I thought I was driving through the end times, and we are in end times, yes. But you drive through, you think it's a zombie apocalypse. The trees look like they have been burnt by fire. Desolate, barren lands. When night come down, the place is dark and eerie. So we over here in the east and other parts, the island, let us stop this foolishness of trying to play politics. Some of you bickering because your labor rights and who are PNP. Listen to me. Now is not the time for that. Support the government, support the opposition. Dr. Holness can't be everywhere at the same time. So Mr. Holness, because you know you can't be there everywhere at the same time, your team can't be everywhere at the same time. Already persons are saying you have preference. Because you land someplace and you never land until you get pressured, you land somewhere else. So to save us from the unnecessary conversations or whether or not you're playing the politics, let it not be said that you're not providing the resources needed for the opposition to do their work. This is affecting everybody. This is affecting everybody. My God, today on Midday Connections, a lady called and she cried. She cried because she said, how can it be that in a time like this, it seems as if we have no heart anymore, you know? It's like we don't have no heart again. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a long afternoon. But tonight, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Stevens will continue these conversations. Today, we saw where the Minister of Entertainment, Culture, Sports, and all of that, she wants to keep some concerts to raise funds. Good idea. Good idea. However, don't you believe it's better to put the cost to produce to the immediate needs of the people? We heard in the press conference just now. There's no time to delay. You have the state of some of these places, they are breeding grounds for breakouts. What we don't want is for the disease to start break out in the country now, you know. And when the disease start break out, me and you can't go there again, but we'll give out a care package again, you know. You know who have to go down there? The experts in them long suit and big mask, because disease start break out, people start dead, the devil is a liar. God Almighty. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not continue this foolishness. People don't even trust the government to give them money. People say me prefer drive on the body than go down there myself. Because this government doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to being good stewards over the public's purse. Too many scandals to name. Too little consequences for these said actions. And because of that, people are left in limbo. People are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because we will now have to journey to the west and to other parts of the island, because we simply just cannot trust this government. Let's get it right. Ladies and gentlemen, Let's get it right. This was PDTV News Jamaica. We had media connections earlier. We had to share some of the PNP's conference with you. You heard it for yourself. They're not getting the support that they need. People playing politics, people not getting the support that they need. The MPs are crying. Isaac Buchanan said he was told that Portland was not a priority. Yes, some places are more affected than others, but not because it's not a priority means that they shouldn't get any help. You have persons who are affected all over. So please, let us slow down, recollect, and understand the serious times that we are living in. Ishmael, big bad producer, take us out with something there. Tonight, join us for the anchor show with Mr. Stevens. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. We went out yesterday. Yes, we gave away some stuff. We're looking to go back to other places, going to other places. Yeah. So stick around, finish the day, and then we'll end it in totality with Mr. Stevens tonight. Blessings, everybody. See you soon.
Wouldn't already yet. Somebody shout hallelujah. I said I'm happy every day as I travel through this land. I've been mighty blessed by God, and I'm holding to his hand. Yes, mommy, I see you. Yes, the journey's almost over. Shut up. And the battle is nearly won. And I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I have a feeling in my heart. The best is yet to come. Slide up it. Over there, so who not ready to get, who not get up now, man. Who not get up now, man. I feel mad in this place. Let's go. I am happy every day as I travel through this land. I've been mighty blessed by God, and I'm holding to his. Over there, so I said the journey's almost over. I know the battle is nearly won, and I have a feeling in my heart, the best is yet. Come on, sir. I said the best is yet to come. When I walk through heaven's gates, yeah, I said the first time I'll see Jesus. I can hardly wait. And he showed me to a mansion and said, child, this is your home. And I have a feeling in my heart. You know this one? Listen, shut. Tell me who made the angels sing, and tell me who made the joy bells, and tell me who is the King of Kings. Nobody but my, come on, try go me. Well, yes, he made the world, he made the sea. Oh, fasten them together with his man. Under his control and under his command. Nobody but. Tell me who made the angels sing, and tell me who made the joy bells. Slide up in, emancipate. Said I've got somebody with me to share my heavy load. I said I feel his presence near me every day. All I know trouble overtake me. Oh, I love life. Somebody lift up your hand. One and one hand. Slide. able. He's able. I know my God is able to carry me through. I know He's able, no. He's able. I see you, mommy. I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you. I know my God is able. I want them to know this part. Listen, listen. When He looked broken hearted, He said the Rakai, and then He made the lame to walk again and cause the blind to see. I know He's able. He's able. I know. I know my God is able to carry me through. Hold on. Listen. Real. Christ so real to me. Hallelujah. I love Him. I love Him. I love Him. Slide of it. I said many people don't, but I can't do without Him, and that is why I love Him so. Hold on, no man. Listen, I said closer than a brother. Oh my Jesus is to me. I said He's my dearest friend. Come on, emancipate. Come on, slide of it. I said He's my Lord. Yeah, yeah. My shield and hiding place. Closer than a brother. Jesus is to me. Last one. Mighty long way, Lord. Mighty long way. Well, who never come for me a madman for Jesus? Somebody shout hallelujah. Somebody shout glory.